Hey everyone, if you've ever stared at a houseplant with a watering can in your hand, just filled with anxiety, you are in the right place. We're going to spend the next few minutes completely demystifying houseplant watering and turn that stress into some serious confidence. Let's jump in. So let's be honest, this is probably the number one mistake in all of plant care: overwatering. We've all been there, right? Hovering, second guessing ourselves. But what if the problem isn't just how much you water, but also what you're watering with? Let's start right there by looking at the water itself. It might sound almost too basic, but really, the journey to happy, thriving plants starts right at your sink. The kind of water you're using can make a huge difference. So let's take a closer look at what's actually coming out of your tap. You've probably seen this before, that white, kind of crusty buildup on your terracotta pots. That's the calling card of hard water. But here's the good news. For most of your houseplants, that natural lime content really isn't harmful. It's more of a cosmetic thing. There is, however, another kind of treated water you really need to watch out for. Okay, this part is super important. While your regular old tap water is usually fine, water from a salt-based softener is a massive no-go for your plants. See, those systems work by swapping out hard minerals for sodium, and that salt builds up in the soil and becomes toxic over time. So if you have a water softener, make sure you're using a tap that bypasses it, like your outdoor spigot or the cold water line in the kitchen. The great thing is, you don't need to buy fancy bottled water for your plants. You can easily upgrade your tap water with a few simple tricks. The easiest one? Just let it sit out in an open container for about 24 hours. That lets the chlorine evaporate right out. Also, and this is a big one, always use room temperature water. Cold water can literally shock the roots. And hey, if you want to go the extra mile, a simple carbon filter, like the one in a Brita pitcher, works wonders. All right, so our water is sorted. Now we get to the million-dollar question: when do we actually water? Your plant is giving you signals all the time. The real key to being a great plant parent is just learning how to read them. Okay, think of this as your official diagnostic cheat sheet. Now, at first glance, some of these symptoms look the same, like yellowing leaves, right? But the secret is in the texture. An overwatered plant is going to have soft, limp, yellow leaves. An underwater plant, those leaves will be crispy and brittle. And always check the base of the stem. If it feels mushy, that's way too much water. Oh, and don't forget to trust your nose. If the soil smells sour or funky, that's a huge red flag for a root rot. So, our water is good to go, and we know how to spot the signs of thirst. Now for the really practical part, the actual art of watering. And this is all about adopting the right method, not just blindly sticking to some rigid water every Tuesday schedule. This is it. This is the single most reliable tool in your entire plant care arsenal, and it's free. I'm talking about your own finger. Just forget the schedules, forget the guesswork. All you have to do is stick your index finger about 2 inches down into the soil. Why 2 inches? Because that's down in the root zone. If it feels dry down there, it's time to water. If you feel any hint of moisture or coolness, just wait. Give it another day or two and check again. It is really that simple. You know, something that seems kind of minor but actually makes a pretty big difference is the time of day you water. Watering in the morning is ideal because it gives the plant the entire day to drink up what it needs, and it allows any extra moisture on the leaves to evaporate before nightfall. It's a simple little timing trick that helps prevent a ton of common problems. And I just love this analogy because it makes so much sense. Watering your plants late at night is basically like putting them to bed soaking wet. That combination of darkness, cool air, and moisture just sitting there, well, it creates the absolute perfect breeding ground for fungus, mildew, and rot. So let your plants sleep dry. Okay, now it's time to play a little game of fact versus fiction. There are a few really persistent myths floating around out there that can actually do more harm than good. So let's set the record straight on a couple of them. This one is probably the most common pro tip you hear, especially for tropical plants. And it feels like it should be, right? Doesn't it? Giving your plants a nice, refreshing little spritz. But does it actually do anything useful? The answer here is a hard no. I mean, think about it. That little humidity boost you get from misting, it literally disappears in just a few minutes. So what are you left with? You're left with water droplets just sitting on the leaves, which, as we just talked about, is basically a wide-open invitation for fungal diseases. The risks just so far outweigh the tiny, temporary benefit. All right, here's another tempting little gadget that promises a shortcut to perfect watering. You just stick it in the soil, you get a reading on a dial. Simple, right? Well, not exactly. The truth is, those cheap meters are just notoriously unreliable. The readings can get totally thrown off by all sorts of things, like the type of soil you're using or the salts from fertilizer. But the bigger issue and the reason for this quote is that relying on a gadget like that actually stops you from learning a real gardener's most important skill, understanding your plants through touch and observation. So let's pull all of this together. After busting some myths and learning the right techniques, we can really boil everything down to a simple, super effective philosophy for keeping your plants happy and thriving. This is it. This is your takeaway list. Number 1, always check the soil first. Throw those schedules out the window. 2, when you do water, water thoroughly, not just a little sip. Water until it runs out the bottom to encourage deep roots. 3, dump that extra water out of the saucer. Letting plants sit in a puddle is the fastest way to get root rot. 4, remember that a cactus is not a fern. Get to know your specific plant's preferences. And finally, number 5, and this one is the most important, your pot must have a drainage hole. That is completely non-negotiable. At the end of the day, being great with plants isn't about following a rigid set of rules. It's about having a conversation. It's about listening. So go use the finger test, take a close look at the leaves, and find out, what are your plants trying to tell you right now?